Old Man Sarge here. This is the beginning of the battle report for Global 1936. This will be turn 1, July of 1936. And what we're going to do, probably for the first at least 3 turns, maybe longer, depends on how much detail we need to get into, but we'll be going over just kind of what everybody bought for the first 2 or 3 turns. When Japan goes to war with China, we'll talk a little bit more about what they did, but they should be fairly quick. But I'm just going to give you a quick scan of what the battle or what the world looks like prior to us moving and buying. So we've got nationalist and Republican Spain at war. We've got Abyssinia at war with Italy. And then we have everybody else, for the most part, probably building up. Japan can of course go to war, but they probably won't for a little bit until they get their people in position, their troops. So that's the mass of China. And that marker there represents that small little army there, but I anticipate it's going to get larger since I'm going to launch my, my northern assault from that location when the time comes. So I'm just kind of preparing that now. So here's the world. And the Netherlands will get $1. They have $1, see right there. What they can spend, they're neutral. But they're going to be a force until India decides, Britain decides how they want to split the money. And then Germany, I've got 2 markers representing those 2 armies there. I believe that those 2 forces will probably get larger as we prepare for the invasion of France and Poland. So that's the beginning. We'll be back after the first turn and we'll let you know what everybody bought. Alright, we are moving to the end of 1936. We're moving to 1937 soon. And so here's kind of a recap. I don't think nationalist China has moved yet if you wanted to move anything, but other than that, here's the recap of what has happened so far. So nationalist China, or pardon me, nationalist Spain took this northern province from Republic of Spain. And then Republic of Spain counterattacked with their aircraft and a cavalry and an infantry, and they were able to destroy the forces but not able to take the territory. And then they walked into this territory. The Condor Legion, which are these guys right here, they've arrived with a medium bomber to help out the National Spain. One supply point got through, the other one was convoyed, interdicted by this coastal submarine. Germany bought a medium bomber and 3 infantry, and that marker right there represents this force right here. That's what's in Western Germany. And then a very small army right now is being built up against Poland. And a few ships were built, and Germany moved out a sub and a coastal sub. Republic of Spain received supplies from Russia. And they, as I said before, they moved and took over one territory and then attempted to attack another. And they're kind of attritioning out. France has moved their troops up to the front line, and I believe they saved their money. Yep, getting a nod. They saved their money last turn. Netherlands saved their money, but they don't have a whole lot to deal with. Russia, they moved quite a bit of force up here into Leningrad, which is represented by this army right here, and they bought militias. And the militias were placed along the line against Japan. I don't know if that means that he's just protecting against the potential conflict on the border wars, or whether he's just going to start transporting those guys out against Germany. Don't know yet. Communist China saved their money, and Britain, over here in Far East Command, moved a couple infantry to Hong Kong. Looks like they're going to do a defense there and a fleet. And that's the fleet that they're so far building up. Australia, think they saved their money as well. Far East Command and Britain are upgrading their factory right off. It looks like they want to build 5 units a turn, and Britain upgraded this is upgrading this factory. So that's going to be 10 units a turn that Britain can build in the future. Both Britain and France have a fair-sized fleet in the English Channel right now. Actually, the French fleet isn't that big yet. It's like 3 ships, but the British fleet, 4 or 5 ships. And the Americans consolidated their fleet and brought over their light tank and medium bomber. Italy did win the war against Ethiopia, but it cost them 2 infantry, which I don't think Italy can really afford too easily. Italy transported down a mountain troop and an infantry down into East Africa, and everybody else kind of remained the same. There's where we are. We will go with nationalist China, unless he's not going to move, and then we'll be on to January of 1937, and we will return at the end of that turn. Old Man Sarge, we just finished January of 1937. We're moving on to the beginning of the July 1937 turn. Things aren't going so well for the Axis. Nationalist China, or Nationalist Spain, has lost a big fight here. They each lost a fighter, but the whole force that was sitting here was wiped out and the supplies have been captured by Republic of Spain. It looks to me like, and Germany didn't send any supplies down because they're very vulnerable right now if they went down to there. So Germany didn't send anything down, neither did Italy. It looks very precarious. So it looks like the Republic of Spain has the definite advantage. They'd have to get really lucky with nationalist Spain to really turn this thing around, I think. Germany continued to buy within these 2 armies here. I'll show you the armies. They built a tactical fighter or bomber for the Poland offensive, and then they put some more infantry, or an artillery and some more infantry against the possible French offensive. Everything else kind of remains the same for them. France, they saved their money last turn, and they saved it because they wanted a Char B1 Biz on the table. This is an early war heavy tank. Attacks on a 7, defends on a 6, on a 12-sided dice of course, moves 1, and after January 1941 and thereafter, it will have -2 on both attack and defense. So that's the downside to having this early war heavy tank, but that's the special rules we came up for it. He's pushing up to defend the front line there, still has the Maginot Line defended. He's put his French fleet into 2 different fleets. One of them is there, which is represented by those ships there. He has a little bit down in Morocco, and he has the remainder of his fleet over here conjoined with the British when that should take effect. Russia, he moved more troops into Leningrad. Actually, I don't think he moved any more. He's got his ski troop, a couple militia, cavalry, an aircraft, and this special little ski piece of equipment. I don't even remember what it's called. He did buy 2 artillery. He put 1 in Stalingrad and the other in Kiev. And so this is kind of what the Russian front line looks like at the moment. He has built up the Transcaucasus region a little bit. He put an infantry down there and a cavalry. And he's built up down here. So he's got a couple infantry, a mobile, and a cavalry. Don't know what his plans are. He did do a cross-border skirmish with the Japanese in northern Manchuria. He beat up the militia that was there, but he also lost an infantry in the process. But there was a little bit of a fight. Japan. Japan built Special Naval Landing Force, the Special Forces Marine unit for the Japanese, and 3 Marines. Looks like they're getting ready for something. And this army right here is right there, and it's pretty large. Couple cavalry, an artillery, I think it's like 8 infantry, couple mobile infantry, small air force. So it looks like Japan is ready to do something against China, perhaps. As far as the Far East Command goes, they finished their factory upgrade, so now this is a major factory. They can build 5 units out of that. And Australia did the same. Or no, Australia's starting the process. Sorry, they haven't finished it yet. They just started it. So they have to spend $5 more to get that completely upgraded. Over here in Britain, they did finish their factory upgrade. So now they have 2 factories that can produce 5 units each. The United States is just forwarding their carrier and their cruiser. They saved some money last turn, so they've got those on the verge of being able to be built. Italy is moving that battleship up, so it's got 1 more turn, $5 more and it will be built. Also, that fleet is right there. It has a transport, 3 coastals, and that's the fleet marker right there. They're consolidating their air force in Libya, and they just kind of move some guys around in East Africa a little bit. So I think I've covered everybody. The big news, of course, was Nationalist Spain attacked out of Madrid against the Condor Legion, the medium bomber, 1 Nationalist Spain infantry, and the Nationalist Spain fighter, and they only lost their fighter in the process of the fight. So Nationalist Spain has the advantage in that war right now. So we don't know how it's going to turn out, but it looks like they've got Nationalist Spain may lose. I'm sorry, Republic of Spain's got the advantage right now, and it looks like Nationalist Spain might lose that fight. That is where we ended for this turn. And so we're starting anew in, sorry for the sun, we're starting for the new, July 1937, and we're going to continue to move. No money has really changed yet, gone up or down. So here we are, the beginning of 1938, so we just finished 1937. And as you can see, some tokens have moved because Japan did attack. They attacked China, so we got a little bit of an increase in Far East Command, in Anzac, and we got a little increase in the United States, a pretty big increase in the United States. And China's got a lot more money to spend, at least for the moment. Japan, they were at 27. However, when they attacked this territory right down by Hong Kong, and the Chinese took it back. They attacked it with a bunch of mountain troops. They're defending pretty heavily in Nanking, and the Japanese took Peking, and they've got this other territory right here. And so this is where we are on this side of the map. Russia did a cross-border skirmish with the Japanese, but it didn't result in anything. It's a 1-turn skirmish. Russia moved their troops up to the front line a little bit. They moved an artillery back down to the Transcaucasus region. The Germans, they built an airborne unit so they can pair it up with that transport, and they built some more infantry and a fighter. So that's the air force that the Germans have at the moment. Britain built a couple anti-aircraft guns because they see that airborne transport and they're a little nervous about it, so they want to have a bit of more defense in case Germany gets a little creative. The French, we're using this Canadian token for the French, they built a second Char B-1 Biz, so now they have 2 heavy tanks, early war heavy tanks in Paris right now. And they pulled back. They pulled back from this territory into Paris itself. On the Spanish Civil War, we're kind of playing around the rosy. Right now, nationalist China has 2 territories, and Republic of Spain has, nationalist Spain, and Republic of Spain has 4 at the moment, but they keep seeming to trade 1 territory at a time. Let's see. Britain, Italy moved a couple infantry down. They started a naval base because, according to the rules requiring the Africa Corps, if they are to come help them, they need to have a naval base to be able to transport the guys to. That's pretty much it. But it's getting a little hotter. Now we're moving into January of 1938, and the war has begun in China, and we'll see if it spreads to other regions of the world. We'll be right back with the end of that turn. And here we are at the end of January turn of 1938. China is holding up well against Japan. Japan's marching down from the north, so that army right there is that army there. And they did make some inroads into Shaanxi right there. So they're right kind of surrounding communist China at the moment. However, nationalist China has basically taken back all the territories that Japan had taken earlier, and they've put a ton of troops around it. So that's the only wars going on right now. Australia built an infantry. Let's see, what did these guys do? They moved their tank up to Malaya, Far East Command, and they put a troop in Hong Kong as a colonial troop because they can build 1 a turn. Britain also can, but they instead built a fighter and an infantry in London to stop a sea lion possibility. The Germans are continuing to build up. So they've got a couple more infantry, and they've got 2 medium bombers and all that in that 1 territory right there. And then in that territory, it still has not changed right there. Nationalist Spain took back Barcelona. So there's only 1 nationalist, Republic of Spain took back Barcelona. There's only 1 infantry left for the nationalist Spain. That infantry goes, and the war will be over. The Germans and the Italians keep sending reinforcement or supplies there, but they keep getting interdicted by the coastal sub. And that's what Italy has in their homeland, in Libya, in East Africa. So now we're getting closer to an all-out conflict. Russia is just kind of putting up an entire line of troops. Militia, regular troops, artillery, a mix of all kinds of things. That's where we're at. So we'll move on to July 1938. Germany can now build medium tanks and mech. We just ended July 38 turn. We're going into January of the 39 turn. The war is heating up. We'll go right to where it's the thickest right now. China and Japan are duking it out. Japan's got that very large army right there, right outside of Nanking. But Nanking has a huge stack, and so does the army right behind it. That's what it looks like right now. Australia is building some infantry up over there in Sydney. The Russians, they're building up on the front line here. They're actually starting to build a fortification in Smolensk. The Germans are now building medium tanks. They added 3 to the army right there next to Poland. And then they added 1 against Belgium. Italy has completed a naval base, which was needed if they were going to get the Africa Corps to come in and help them out. Nationalist Spain and Republic of Spain are still duking it out, but Nationalist Spain's they're in Hurt City right now. They're not doing so hot. And Britain now has put another anti-aircraft gun in London and some more infantry. So we'll see how this goes. This is the beginning of January of 1939. United States is just building ships. They just keep moving. They're building a new battleship and a cruiser, and they just keep pushing them forward. So we'll see how the January 39 turns out. Germany has also annexed Austria and Sudetenland. They got one more territory to annex. Alright, the war continues. We keep trading shots here. Japan and China. Kill a few Chinese, lose a few more Japanese. The battle continues. Japan did hit this territory with the mountain troops from Communist China and wiped them out. So Communist China just has militias in their home territory now. The United States and basically about everybody except for maybe Australia and France lend-leased to the Chinese to try to help them out. Russia, it keeps building up their fort in Smolensk with militias. France is now building a fort in Paris. Germany keeps building mechanized and tanks. They now have 3 tanks in each of those armies, and they have 2 mechanized and the one that's closest to Poland. Italy it finished a construction of a cruiser, so their fleet's a little larger now, and they built an infantry. They don't have a whole lot to spend. Republic of Spain won the Civil War, so now the Republic of Spain will join with Russia when Russia's attacked. The United States built an infantry and lent-leased a lot of its money over to the Chinese. And that's kind of where we're at. This is probably the pivotal turn because it's now July of 1939. This is probably the turn that Germany will declare war. So we'll be back. This is kind of where the money looks like at the current moment. Here we are on the end of July 1939. We are starting on January 1940 right now. And you can see Germany's in the lead, but America, Britain, and Japan are right behind them. Germany is at war with Britain, Far East Command, and Australia at the moment. Both Germany and Russia have advanced on the heavy armor technology. The Molotov Pact was not signed, so Russia cannot go into eastern Poland or the Baltic states. It can invade, obviously, Finland until it reaches its full allotment of money. Germany declared war and invaded Denmark, Belgium, where that big army marker is, and they took over most of Poland. There's one guy remaining. And Great Britain, they built some anti-aircraft guns, a transport, and right now they're just kind of defending London right now. France finished their fortification in Paris, and that army that is right there is right there. Those 2 Char B1 Bizs, they attack on a 7, defend on a 6, move 1. And in January of 1941, which would be 2 turns from now, their defense and attack would go down by 2. Their early war heavy tanks. The British still have their fleet combined with the French for the moment, wondering if the Italians are going to strike out against the British. They have not done so yet. The Republic of Spain is still building up some defensive forces against France. They keep lend-leasing tons of money to the Chinese, who keep building infantry in Nanking. So we keep fighting back and forth between Japan and China. It's a proxy war. Pretty obvious it's a proxy war. Australia has not. They're saving their money up right at the moment. Netherlands is still neutral. And that's kind of where we are at this turn. So we're going to start moving on. Germany is at war with the United Kingdom, and that's the only war that they currently have, except for Poland, of course. So we are now entering January 1940. We'll report what happens at the end of this turn, and we'll keep going forward. It's getting pretty exciting. And here we are, an eventful turn in January of 1940. We're now going to move this up to July, but this is so far the end of the January 1940 turn. Netherlands is actually out of it. So Germany went haywire, and then everybody went haywire back on them. I mean, Russia has more income than Germany right now. So this is kind of what happened. The Ribbentrop Pact was not signed. Germany came up, started taking a bunch of territories, which was stupid, I guess, because it gave Russia a ton of money because of the bonus dollars they get. And they came roaring back. Not only that, but Britain landed in Normandy and in Picardy, I think it is. And they tried to wipe out that one tank, but they weren't able to do so. But Britain has a little bit. They've got some airborne troops. That's what they've got. They've got 2 transports sitting there with a couple of airborne. Yeah, Germany's not looking too good. Now, Italy, on the other hand, they had a good turn. They took out the British fleet in Egypt, and this is what they've got left. So they lost a lot of their little boats, and they have taken Egypt. And
No, they haven't taken Egypt.
Well, they took Egypt, but not Cairo. Cairo has a militia, 2 infantry, and a tactical bomber. And Italy has that could potentially attack it. Although Britain does have a fleet that they might counterattack with there. Vichy France is like all over the southern places, but all over the north is Free France. So Free France is getting $6 a turn. Unfortunately, they do not have, at this point, a way to build anything because they don't have a facility. They can still build their militia, though, or I mean their colonial troops, however, because they do have that special rule. So the United States is at $32. They only rolled a 3 for the income to come in. And Japan took out communist China, except for there's 1 militia in this one territory that's actually supposed to be a communist China, but we don't have the markers for it, so we're using the Russian marker. Japan does have Nanking, but China has a few troops on the outskirts of it. And they've got some troops built up. Down here, a fighter, a mobile infantry, and a medium tank down in India. So I don't know. I think it's looking pretty rough for the Germans. They made some mistakes that are going to cost them, but it's looking good for the Italians. So who knows how this is going to turn out. The Americans aren't in the war yet, so anyway, that's how we ending on January of 1940. We're moving on to July of 1940, and we'll be back with the synopsis of that turn.